time seems a little more exciting for some. But when there's no one listening to you, ooh, what are you gonna do? Riots come when there's no one listening. Silence begets the noise. Well, I have a heavy one to talk about. So I was thinking I'd talk about anything else, but it's kind of too much on my mind, so I have to talk about this, and it is very important, but I don't know if I can really talk about it clearly enough, so I was pretty hesitant. But there's basically a riot going on in Dublin at the moment, because three children and a woman, very young children, like 5-year-old children, and a 30-year-old woman who is possibly their teacher, were stabbed in broad daylight by some 50-year-old man. And these kids at a Gael school, like an Irish language school in the centre of Dublin. And some guy with a huge knife stabbing them, and then people intervened and kind of beat the shit out of the dude, basically. So all of them, including the guy who was stabbing these children, are in hospital. The 5-year-old girl, one of the kids, this 5-year-old girl, is apparently has serious injuries and is undergoing emergency treatment. So if you're listening to this, I don't know whether, I don't know, whatever time it is, I'd encourage you to maybe pause the video or the audio and send some good vibes to that little girl, and I want to do this right now, some golden healing light to this child. Gach Banacht, every blessing to the victim of a horrific crime. And so, yeah. But the city sort of exploded a little bit, and I'm going to go into the reasons for it, and kind of, I'm not going to point fingers too much, but kind of just try to understand what's going on. So I think the main thing is, like, I hope they're all okay. They're going to be, probably traumatized, but I hope these kids are okay. And the woman. And so basically, now, what happened is, my friend was sending me some videos. He was nearby, and then I started seeing other videos, like on Twitter and stuff, of just basically there's young fellas, young men, kind of very angry at this, kind of crossing into the cordoned off area, and then kind of attacking police, the guards, the Gardaí, who were trying to force them back out of the area. And then, people got angrier, people kept coming in, and basically, police being attacked and retreating, police cars being burned. I think the tram, like the Lewis, I saw burning, and big crowds and pretty crazy, like, scenes. And so obviously, like, a lot of this is, there's like young people who just want something to be angry at, and who love some mayhem and to smash some stuff. Some primal instincts kicking in, who just, get, us against them. Oh yeah, fucking, police, let's go attack them. Or like, wanting to just, whatever, have something a bit more interesting, some burns down some stuff. But that's not, and then I think that's what the government's going to be talking about, being like, oh, these people, just crazy people, burning people, attacking police. And definitely, that's true. They shouldn't be attacking the police. The police didn't cause this, I guess one factor I should mention is the guy. It appears that the person who was stabbing these children was Algerian or some sort of some newcomer to this country, and this is in the context of I'm going to get into briefly, um, and why this is such a hot button topic at the moment. But so there's definitely all these, a bunch of young people, in inner city Dublin, there's some issues of like crime already, and maybe people who maybe, who knows, maybe there's a lot of teenage pregnancy in certain areas. Maybe there's some kind of young people who maybe are a bit rowdy and wild, and maybe grew up without too much, parental discipline. So that's a factor. But there's also, like terrible people who've just been deprived and, lacking opportunities from a state which, from my point of view, like often doesn't really take care of the people very well. And so there's also, poverty causing these things. But there's definitely, to give the devil his due, there's definitely an element of young people, doing things they shouldn't be doing and just going crazy, and kind of some older people. Um, However, there's also, I think, there's a lot of people involved who wouldn't, there's not enough people like that for this to just spark off out of nowhere. There's a lot of people involved who'd be more sane people, and who are very, very angry that these children have been attacked. And this comes in the wake of other similar attacks where um, Irish people have been attacked by, newcomers to the country, in a context where the government seems to have been, for political correctness reasons, not really on top of the game and paying attention. So, again, I will get to that in a moment. But so before we talk about that, it seems my feeling is that there's a lot of people who feel like uh, who are being pushed into this rioting, and you shouldn't be rioting. I don't think that's not helping anything. That's just destroying property. But I think there's a lot of people who are very angry and they're being pulled into that, and it's very dangerous. That I believe the government has a lot of responsibility here as well as these people who are rioting. So it's not who's right or wrong. It's like both, they're wrong on both sides. So, and I'm just going to lay out the situation which I think has fueled why it's not just the small, crowd of like kind of crazies. There's also, I think, like a wider group of people have been drawn into this. People who are maybe, crazy adjacent are being pulled into it. Um, and, maybe people who are good people, but they feel like the police and the government are no longer, that they're basically treasonous. They're no longer serving the country. So to finally get into that, basically, like this comes in the context of, um, there's many benefits to immigration. My family's benefited from immigration, um, and I've immigrated back to Ireland, basically. My family left, and then I've come back. Um, and immigration, obviously brings many benefits to individuals and also to countries. Cultural exchange, people who really want to work, but then it's not like there's no downsides to it either, right? People have different ways of doing things that can destabilize the culture. There's different ways of doing it. It's like if too many people join a party, a few people join a party, it's really interesting. But if half the party are now people you don't know, it's no long. Even if they're having fun, you might not be having fun anymore because you're like, who are these people? You know. Now that's not a perfect analogy, but there's some similarity there where if too many people join a culture too quickly, it can destabilize things and bring out the worst instincts in the native people. So I think immigration is good, but obviously most rational people would agree there's a certain limit. It shouldn't be too quick, too much too quick. Um, Now we could debate what that limit is, but I think only kind of ideologues or extremists would. I think only extremists will say, "Oh no, zero immigration is the correct number," um, and well, I don't know. Maybe that's their opinion, but like I would say, that's too extreme. I would call that extreme. But then to say, "Oh no, open borders," I think well, that's crazy. Also, somewhere in the middle. But so there's been this mass immigration to Ireland, and most people have been welcoming in general. But there's been this trend where there's a sense, and I think justified, that the Irish government are not actually looking after the Irish people anymore. To some extent they are, but to a very large extent they're not. I'll give details in a moment. But just to cut to the chase here, because I'm going to wind this up within the next 5 minutes. The Irish government has not been properly meeting its responsibilities of representing the people. It's basically acting like an aristocracy. They're not listening to the people. They do surveys, or what do people feel about this issue? Say the hate speech laws, bringing in censorship, basically saying if we deem it hateful, then we can put you in prison for having that, even if you're not going to share it. You have some document on your computer. The guards can come and search your house, and if they find it, you could go to prison for 6 years. And it's not at all. The legislation does not define hate at any point. So that's very violating free speech. And like for a country which is so deeply devoted to freedom due to our history and centuries and centuries of domination by Britain, it's just so offensive that this is being brought in. The most precious freedom, the freedom of thought and speech and consciousness, is being attacked by the government. And the vast majority of the public said, like, no, we don't want that. And the government said, oh, well, we're going to do it anyway. And they've just been arrogantly pushing it through. And that's just one example. There's countless examples. Look at what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, just, draconian laws, no consultation on what do the people think. Should we just let everyone kind of go about their business and we isolate the vulnerable people? No, there's no question. It was just the government told us what to do. We have to listen. And, the state ballooning and ballooning, getting bigger and bigger, and yet not really providing very good services or bang for the buck while the people are paying, inflation's going through the roof due to government spending and borrowing and printing of money, and yet quality of life is getting harder for people in general. So there's all these problems where, or the militarization, trying to get Ireland more militaristic, whereas most Irish people prefer the traditional policy of neutrality. There's all these examples of these things where there's a sense that the Irish government is not actually serving the people. And so that's a big enough problem on its own. But then you've got this thing where they're also very keen on bringing more people in, and which, I'm in favor of if it's it's properly regulated and like anything, in society. But huge, immigration, and a lot of it unvetted. There's many asylum seekers from the Ukraine war, many people coming in, but then also just people from all over the place being brought in, many of them without any documents and just coming in. And so this is a big concern a lot of people have. And these people are being housed all over the country. And there's a case where there's a village of 1,000 people. Was it 1,000 people? Or maybe it was 500 people. Aramo, and the government didn't tell them. They just said, oh yeah, we're going to put 1,000, like double the population of the village. 1,000 asylum seekers, just in your village there. They're like, without talking to the village. Like, we don't have the services to deal with this, blah, blah, blah. So this is happening all around the place. And there's this sense that the government maybe, for some political shenanigans with the European Union, trying to, oh, look how good we are, doing our bit, that they're more concerned with, rubbing shoulders with people in Brussels than with actually thinking about the practical situation of the people and what do the Irish people want. And Irish people are, Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes, are incredibly welcoming people. But even the most welcoming person should have boundaries. And there are boundaries, naturally. And they're being pushed against because Leo Varadkar, the Prime Minister, the Taoiseach, he just said his concept of consultation with the public is explaining what's going to happen, with migrants and putting asylum seekers. It's not about listening to whether they want them or not. So it's a kind of top-down parental nanny state approach, and not at all democratic. And so you have this background of the government not respecting the people and causing all kinds of problems. And then large-scale immigration, which I hate to have to say this again, but I think this is such a triggering topic, I am going to say it again, which has many benefits. And I love, I teach English, so I meet all kinds of people from all over the place. Many of them are probably going to be, some of them, I think, will be watching this. And hello, I love you all, like we're all welcome here. But we can all agree, no country in the world would agree to just unlimited immigration out of nowhere, because people have a right to live where they live, and Ireland won't be Ireland if the local people aren't allowed to kind of have their culture. This culture is beautiful too, And so I'm not going to get too deep into the whole immigration thing. I'm going to talk about that on another episode. But say when all these people are coming here, all right, so that's all great and wonderful. But of course, um, when the local people have problems with the government, that can put more stress on the situation. But the real problem has been deportations. People who break the law haven't been being deported. They're supposed to be, um, you know, if there's 1,000 people who are supposed to be deported, it's been revealed recently um, uh, that something like 10% of them have actually been forcibly deported. The rest, it's like, and I might be getting the numbers wrong, but it's huge, outrageous, crazy, scandalous number where there's all these people who have broken the law and they've been basically told they have to leave, but they haven't been made to leave. And very few of them have actually left the country. So, and you have situations basically where people are told they're deported, but unless they commit some really serious crime, it's never followed up. And you have a case, this whole riot has come where people are at boiling point because there's a woman called Aisling Murphy, who's a teacher who, kind of, for all, seems to be a very, good, beautiful, kind person, the kind of person you would want around, and she was killed by someone from overseas who came here. And again, that shouldn't matter, right? It's just, oh, you were killed by someone. That's the most important thing, right? It's like there should just be equality and justice under the law. But this person was able to live here without ever 10 years just, milking social welfare and not working, and no jobs, right? And just, basically using various entitlement schemes. Um, and was able, and then, so without contributing to society, and then just, you know, committing a murder. Um, and there's this sense of like it's all being brushed up. And, the boyfriend mentioned this just recently, I think at the trial, that like, how is this possible that this is able to happen? And mentioned that angle of like, people coming to the country and being able to like kind of exploit the system like that. And then, to go on and commit these crimes. And it's not the only one. There've been other cases of these things. And of course, Irish people also commit crimes, for sure, But it's worse, right? If you're a visitor in a country and you're doing that, I think that is worse. Like, um, I think, if you're going somewhere, there's a certain extra responsibility to be righteous, Um, and, both, you know, everyone should be following the law. But, but this comment by the boyfriend, it was ignored by the media. They couldn't argue with it because, like, how could you attack someone who's in such a terrible situation? But it's just ignored, and that's so typical. Like, basically, the political culture here is it's just not talked about, this stuff. It's like you're a right-wing extremist if you mention that there should be reasonable limits on immigration or that people who commit crimes should be deported properly. And so it's a very strange situation. But I think, and there's a huge housing crisis here, and there's many homeless people on the streets, and there's many families who are really struggling to get by, and they're working hard, and they can barely save anything, barely have you know, um, uh, a roof over their head, like literally. And the government is bringing in more and more people without the consent of the normal people, really. Just, yeah, unlimited, bring in more and more asylum seekers, many of whom we don't actually know if they're genuine asylum seekers. They're not being processed outside. Um, and, uh, and so, again, like, it's a very messy topic, but there's limited resources in the country. And so this has made people very angry, that people feel like, it's a very welcoming country and we want people to be able to come and, share, and, help Ireland grow. But and the same thing's mirrored in many countries in Europe, by the way, I would say. Um, and this same dynamic is at play, where basically the government has been betraying the confidence of the people and not taking care of the people, which would be bad enough even if there was no immigration issue. Just not properly doing your job, bad idea. And it puts it a lot of political stability and social, you know, peace at risk. But then on top of that, you're bringing outsiders in who often find it easier. Like there's many entitlements available to people who come to the country, where, and I don't know if this is true, but there's a common perception that for someone who's coming in as a refugee, it's easier to get or potentially even just as a migrant in general, easier to access government services than if you're a local. Um, and so in this situation, people are very angry. And with the murder of Aisling Murphy, this was at boiling point. This sense of like, that not just that the government's ignoring the problem and for political correctness reasons, but also just the scale of that this just keeps continuing to the pressure is increasing, more and more people coming in, um, and a sense that the government is just completely not caring about the people. And then you have some fella from overseas who has, stabbed these children, um, and the whole place erupts. And again, to come full circle, I'm not at all justifying a riot. It's terrible, and it risks the government. Unfortunately, I doubt that. I hope people in the good. I hope some good can come from this, and that the government will go, okay, look, this is a really crazy situation. Surely we've done something wrong. Surely this isn't just crazy young people throwing bricks at cars. Surely we've done, have a bit of introspection. But I'm not sure if they are going to do that, though. Unfortunately, I think there's quite a few narcissists in high levels in the government here and elsewhere. And so I think the danger is that, public lawlessness will just cause a tit for tat escalation thing. And this is happening all around the world as well. You look at, Ukraine and Gaza and stuff in different scales and different ways, but there's this lack of peace from people kind of unable to see multiple perspectives. In this little podcast here, I'm trying to give you two sides to it and say, yeah, it's wrong to be having a riot, and this is not healthy and it's not useful. But and a lot of it is just people wanting mayhem. But then on the other side, you have to. I think the truth involves looking at it from the other side too and saying, yeah, there are legitimate grievances which are pushing. I think causing the ranks of people who are willing to go throw bricks to swell. And then there's many other people who aren't willing to do that, but they're very unhappy. And they could be persuaded to vote in some crazy political party, like what happened in Nazi Germany. Germany was in a terrible situation, so Hitler was voted in not by extremists, but by the middle class. They were like, we just fix the problem. And so I think I'm kind of hoping like uh, this like people can be able to wrap their heads around multiple perspectives and see like that the government really needs to reassess what they've been doing, because immigration's a wonderful thing and it's very helpful, but it's not without its drawbacks. And if you have too much immigration too quickly, while you are not treating the people respectfully, and you're actually demeaning and disrespecting the people by talking a bunch of shite about being a democratic representative, but in reality you just want to be their ruler and force ideas on them that they don't want, then that's a recipe for disaster, and it can spiral out of control very quickly. So I think we are at a point where hopefully enough people are within the government and within general society are aware, like, ooh, this isn't looking too good. We need to get together and try to share perspectives and get people to kind of start talking and just bringing more balance to this. So, you know, make the government less corrupt and more transparent, less lazy, less, self-absorbed and, ideological, and more connected to what their real job is, which is serving the people and the will of the people, what people want. And then also connecting to people in these kind of, you know, communities where they feel so alienated from society and they feel like they've got no hope, and that you know, that the police are against them and the government's against them and the upper classes are against them, and to help them be able to try to have empathy for, you know, their so-called enemies also, and yeah, and try to take some of this energy that's and to put it to a more useful use than burning buses. So all right, I'll stop there, and at the end of the day, I hope these kids are okay, and that they too can, you know, won't get traumatized from this, um, and that can they can put this in the frame of some sort of story or context that allows them to understand, you know, this is a crazy guy, you know, and you know, obviously a sick person to do that to children, um, and that, but that, you know, whatever it is, that they will physically and emotionally be okay, you know, and that, yeah, so so every blessing to the child in hospital. Gach Banach Colleen. All right, that's it, everyone. So I did my best. Not perfect. Sorry if it was offensive. Sorry if it's too shallow. But I did my best, you know. So, all right. See you next week. Keep it real and love to all beings. We're all branches of the same tree, whatever culture we're from. But you know, balance and sensitivity is required. And so let's try to set about being sensitive and balanced with the different perspectives people have, you know? All right.